So, you failed your computer science course, and you think the written code is the most stupid, unintuitive way to install anything you've ever seen in your entire life. In which case I'd ask you to install Trinity Loader, but the point still stands that this process is very difficult for a lot of people. So what this video serves to do is make your lives easier by guiding you through it, and showing you how to fix or avoid most common errors, which I find are 90% of issues people have with the process. So, let's get started and begin by setting up the folders that are used during the process. I'll use the names that I have described in the guide, but these can be called whatever they want. It's just easier for me this way. So you need a temp folder, which stands for temporary. This is going to be all the dependencies that don't need to be installed directly to a system go. And a decomp folder, which is where the actual game will be stored. I'll go through later. If you want to change this with your Steam installation or any other process, you could probably do the same thing for Epic or other launchers. So, first you need to install Visual Studio 2022. If you go onto the guide here and click on this link, you will download the setup file. I already have it installed though, and after you install the base installer, which is what the installer installs, it's really nice and not confusing at all. You need to open it up, modify, and then tick desktop development for C++. This will tick a whole bunch of things on the right here. I didn't pass primary school, but you can install everything other than these two checkboxes, which must be ticked. As you can see, this saves quite a lot of size, about 4 GB, which is quite nice. After that's all installed, if you go to the second link here, you'll come to this page, which is very terminal type text. What you need to do is press Ctrl S on your keyboard, save this file to your desktop. Now, depending on your File Explorer settings, this might be named weirdly or not have a file extension at all. What you need to do is go into Options, View, and hide extensions with known file types. You need to disable this. This will allow you to see the .bat file extension at the end here. If this is dependencies.bat.txt, you need to remove the .txt, which makes the script runnable. Now, all you have to do is double click this inside the temp folder, but I will walk you through the contents just in case you don't trust it or whatever. The top two lines here use Winget, which is a program that's included during later Windows 10 versions. You might have to manually go onto the websites for CMake and Git for Windows and download this or this file, and then during the installation add it to path, which should be a checkbox somewhere. But for most people who use Windows 10 or 11, that bit doesn't matter and you can just use this. I'll include links to those two in the description somewhere if I don't forget. Then these ifs here don't really matter, it's just when I was making this ages ago I had a tons of dependencies sitting around everywhere and I didn't want to keep cloning them over and over again. This will then use git to clone vcpkg, which I don't know what that stands for, which installs the rest of the dependencies like libogg and libfiora, which you may recognize from older versions of the installation guide in the repository. Now, because this uses a git command and you'll have installed it during the script if you just ran it and you didn't install them separately, this might error and then the whole rest of the thing will error because it needs this file for a lot of stuff. So what you will then do is try running it again before filing any issue reports, because it might not get added to path properly until the script has ended, and then just running git is actually calling to an application somewhere in your program files, which it won't know until the script is over. And then it's going to run a script that's included in the vcpkg directory, which sets it up for everything. It will then, this is just to update it if you already have it. This will then clone the Sonic Mania Decompilation repository, which contains all of the game code and inside that the engine code for RSDK v5. It will then go to VCPKG and install libviora and libogg and set it up as an x64 system. Now you might, if you're using x86, you can just change this to x86 here. If you're using ARM in the far future, where that's normal for a lot of people because of power efficiency or whatever, I'm not sure quite what you'll do. There's probably a triplet in the repository somewhere which you can go to by going to this link. You might just need to change this to another string of things, and then the other two is just to close the window. So that doesn't really matter. All you need to do is double click the file, more info, run anyway, because you trust me, hopefully. Now here, these two might take a while. I've already got them installed, so it's just telling me that. It's cloning VCPKG. What's the deal with airline food? And now it's cloning Sonic Mania. And all of the submodules included in the Git repository have all this separate stuff. Now, if it errors here, usually you haven't installed the checkboxes in Visual Studio correctly, like it's showing in this file path, so just make sure that you have those installed right and you've actually started installing it and not just have the installer. And then a bunch of readmes and things, and then you can just press any key to close the window. Now we see these two folders are here. The other stuff is installed in your system somewhere, which you can delete using the command line, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Next, if you scroll down here, you need to open the temp folder, open Sonic Mania Decompilation, and then if you shift and right click in the empty space in this window, you can do it here, or over here, or whatever, that doesn't matter. You'll see a new thing in your context menu called Open PowerShell window here. If you're using Windows 11 without something like Explorer Patcher, which gives you the old context menu, you might have to open more or something. But then open PowerShell window here. Again, I'm using the terminal as my command prompt, but if you don't have that separate app, then this might be a much older looking window with a blue background, but it doesn't matter, it's got the same stuff underneath. And then you need to copy in this file, not file, command. You copy it, highlight it, press Ctrl C, and then in the window you don't press Ctrl V. Oh. Well, it should do a weird thing that looks a bit like, I can't find the key. That. If that happens, then you just need to press right click with your mouse and it will fix that. And it will paste it like it normally would. Then press enter, and this is making configuration files and stuff for the installation. It might take a minute. Oh, maybe it won't. And then after that's done, you run this command. Now all of this big yellow text, if you actually read it, it's just warnings, so it doesn't matter too much. I'm not quite sure why the developers of the engine haven't fixed these, but maybe it's just being completely accurate to the game, I'm not sure. And then while that's finishing up, you might just want to wait until it's done. But then you need to navigate to this file path, which is in this folder, build, dependencies, rsdkv5, which is named the engine, release, and then when this has finished, it has now placed a v5view.exe and a game.dll in this directory. This has all the engine code, this has all the game code. And you just take these two files, cut or copy, doesn't matter, and go into your decomp folder and place them there. Now you need to acquire your legally obtained copy of Sonic Mania. For me, for most people, if you'll probably have it through Steam, so if you open up Steam, you have Sonic Mania here, right click, manage, browse local files, and then there'll be a lot less files in here, because I've done a process which I detail a little later on to make the decompilation open when I open the Steam game. But there'll be a file in here called data.rsdk. It'll be about 200 megabytes large. I've got mine in this addendum folder, so you need to copy this and place it in the folder next to both of these. This has all the assets, so the sprites and the music and all that fun stuff. Then you can just open the game. Small, and I think that's mono audio. But if you press escape, by default it opens the developer menu. I didn't quite know that it did that. You can use the arrow keys and Z and X as entering. Oh, maybe you can't. Okay, enter. I'll just turn on full screen. Use right to change it. It's been a while. As you can probably tell, I am slightly older than in the last video, which was made over 3 years ago. Hopefully I don't sound as bad, but puberty is still a bitch whenever you go. There. Now you've got the game, and if I skip through these, now, if you make it borderless and it doesn't do that weird thing, but I hate doing that for every game, it takes so long. So, you'll see it created a couple other files in here. Achievements.bin will hold all of the achievements it has in the game. There's no way to view them without Steam in the game, as far as I know. But some mods like Sonic Mania Addendum are gonna, at some point in the future, have menu options so that you can view the achievements in the game. Then this is a log. This has all of the silly stuff like not finding right shaders, that's fine. Things for troubleshooting and stuff. Remember settings.ini. A lot of this is fairly straightforward. These might look weird, but they're just it's like code basically for buttons using SDL. So all of these correspond to a different keyboard letter. What I'm going to do so that I don't get really annoyed is disable exclusive full screen, and then it should just be full screen anyway. Okay. Now here, so yeah, dev menu is on by default. I guess that's new because I didn't know it did that. That's it, you're done. You can go leave if you want, but if you want to use things like mods or other things that you have wrong with your installation, I have a nice little FAQ here which you can do that with. So to compile for RSDK v5, not U, the only difference, if you're wondering, is collision is slightly different because v5u was created for the Sonic 3 Knuckles portion of Origins, and it also has support for v3 and v4, which is why 1, 2 and CD work in that. It's got slightly different collision, and then mods need to be compiled for a specific version of the game. Some mods, at least right now, only have v5 versions. So all you have to do to use v5 is in the command in step 4, which was this one. On the end, you just space, copy this, add it in, and then enter, let it configure. Oh, where is it configure? And then finish the rest of it normally. You can't do that on a folder which you've already compiled v5u with, like I have here. So I'm not going to run through the whole thing again, because it's not really that useful. So you'll have to create a new folder and clone the repository again. Basically just restart the guide completely. For anything else, like other graphics APIs, I'm not sure quite how you do that with CMake, so I haven't tried myself. Or Pre+, because it's quite hard to get a data.rsdk from before the Plus update, which was 2018, as far as I remember. So I don't know if there is a legal way to do that anymore, but if there is, or you find it, however, there's steps in the README here for different flags that you add during this command, like if you want to enable disable mod loader or have different revisions or whatever. So I think, yeah, first release, I guess you just use that. To access the dev menu, I'll have to edit this after I made the video because the dev menu is on by default. So you just press escape on your keyboard. I'm not sure if there's a controller command, but because it's a PC thing, there probably isn't. Debug menu. You can open this through the Decompilation by default. Oh, not from that folder. Silly me. From here. Press escape and then stage select. Ugh, it's not got my controls. Any stage you go. Hold on. I might need to change my input. I like ZXE ASD. Start select. There we go. Or maybe I don't know what I'm doing. That's nuts. Strange. So what it usually is for me is if you press X, you go into the weird. That's weird. Anyway, I'll do it in my other folder, the normal one which I used. For what should happen. Okay, well I compiled this pretty recently actually, so I guess I was right here somewhere. That I think you need to acquire a certain number of medallions in your save file, and then you can enable debug mode for specific save files. Oh, I've used your game has a general save file, and then you have different saves for each playthrough. But you can also, we should be able to enable that by using your old save file from Steam. So you can go to this lovely long folder to get your save file if you played using the Steam version. For Epic Games, I'm 90% sure that save is stored in the cloud somewhere, so you can't access it, and if you're on console, then you might be able to use mods if you're on Switch, to use jailbreaks if you're on Switch or something to get your save. But it was much easier if you use a website like this, where you can put in your save. You can go through by each playthrough and like pick a character that you're on, how many lives you had, if you have the emeralds, that Frankel mode, and for medallions. So I'm going to enable debug mode here and save this file as savedata.bin, and then you just need to put this in your decomp folder. Now it should generate one of these by default, but because I haven't done anything in this new install, it won't have. So if I open the game, I will just skip to the menu. Well, there is no way I'm starting this recording again. All to gold, and I've had all the alerts. Let's see if that works. Sure, you can just go in and screw around and find what works for you or what you would like. Sega! Spam through here. It'll also be something that you I think it's a little safer, and I hope that addendum hides it. So what you have on X in here, and I think it's called delete in the actual games options menu. I can move on. I should keep this on the other monitor where I can read it without looking weird. So, the weird username in the main menu, you open the settings.ini here, and underneath game, if you make a new line and then put in username equals, and then type in whatever, so let's go Billy Bob Gordon Free Dude. And you start the game. I'll skip the menu. Now, if you use a quite long and slightly difficult process, which I'll go through in just a second, it will use a username from your Steam by default. Oh, I guess I'm doing it now. I really should have read this. So, if you want to open this through Steam, like if you're on a Steam Deck or something, you can just add a game, add a non-Steam game, then browse, go to your install, but I don't quite want to do that right now. So what I'm going to do, like I've done here, you can see I've got a weird icon there. If I zoom in a bit, you might, yeah. So I've got two different EXEs, but it's actually one because of symlinks. So there are very cool things that you can use to make Steam think that it's your normal game. So you start by installing this mod called RSDK v5 Steam API. What this does is it uses your username and it allows you to get achievements. It also does DLC detection, which I guess you could do if you use a brand spanking new auto build. Maybe they'll just be doing that more in the future where ARM processors are normal. And you have a rich presence through Steam and Discord, I'm pretty sure. So you download the one for the RSDK version that you have. By default it will be v5u x64, but there's also x86 and both for v5. So you just download this, open this 7-zip with 7-zip, oh, Windows now, god, I need to learn. Go to your decomp folder, and then drag, to install mods, by the way, you just make a folder, say mods, drag in the mod. There's probably going to be a data folder in here, but any folder that has mod.ini in, you just drag the parent folder of that in, and then if you open the game, go into the dev menu, mods, press A to turn it on, go back, and resume the game. Sega! And then it should use, yeah, I'll just skip. Then to put it into your Steam game, so you open it when you open Sonic Mania on Steam, is you do the same thing that you did before to get your data to RSDK. You go here, browse, and then in this directory you would delete everything and put in the entire contents of your decomp folder in there. I'm not going to do that because I've done that already. Then, because Steam is going to open sonicmania.exe, you could either rename this file to sonicmania.exe, or you could add it as a symlink. I use a link shell extension to do that, so I can just right click, pick link source, and then go away, and then output it as a different name. That's just easier because if I'm building new versions so often, I drag them in, I don't have to rename every time. But it's quite stupid, really. And then if you want to edit your controller settings, which using controllers by default, I haven't done that much on DX9, which is a graphics API that this builds by default. So I do most of it through Steam. So if you go to Properties, Controller, Control Configurator, you can then edit the controller. So if I get out my Switch Pro controller, which is an 8-bit DO Ultimate Wireless, it should realise, yep. And then you might have to screw around if you've got controllers with different layouts like PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. But what I do is I just use the gamepad that's in Steam, so this should be becoming a regular Xbox 360, which I think they still use. I've got no gyro behavior or anything. And now there's also a setting in settings.ini called face button flip. You might want to turn this on. I would imagine that this is used for Switch if you're not using it through Steam, which might be useful. And then if you're using something like PlayStation and it doesn't already realise that, you can go onto Game Banana, onto the Sonic Mania page, like this here, and search for a mod for different UI layouts. So I'm not going to search because I might find Rouge or Alex Vance unsolicited photos like I did last time. But like UI buttons, and then any type of controller, Wii or Famicom or whatever. So if something like PS4, you would get this, download it. Yes, this also fixes the menu, that's quite nice. Then open the zip, put it in your mods folder, go in, turn it on, and you're done. And then you'll also have to use Steam or the in-game settings to change the face buttons or whatever. And the setting in the INI. So it's going to be different for every single type of controller out there, third-party ones from the big three. So I'm not going to give definitive guides, but I will say that the one that I use for the, what is it called? The 8-bit Ultimate Wireless controller, it's very nice, has a dock, I love it. While it's in the modes of Switch controller and not an X input controller, default gamepad, flip off, no UI mods, your mileage will vary. For other mods that you'd want, I've got some, I don't know if you should use them. I put You're Not an RPG Guy's credits theme over the credits theme, because I could. And they're both done by T-Lopes, which is fun. And then a mod which adds all of the songs that were featured in the 30th Anniversary Symphony into their respective places. All this red text is because I made this just before the decomp came out, and I figured out how to use a Mania Mod Manager's configure button, but I'm really annoyed now because there's no point in doing that anymore, because with decomps you can have incredible mods, like removing that godforsaken save pop-up. If you want a mod that isn't by me, I would highly recommend Sonic Mania Addendum, which featured in last year's SHC. You can download the release from here, which, by the way, Bayma Caragale, special thanks for helping me with figuring out the script stuff, because they've made one for the Android version. But what this mostly does is add Amy, adds time stones and miracle forms, and a lot of other quality of life changes. So you can download this version and then add it as a mod, and for this release specifically, there are also going to be many. Oh my god, I thought SHC had better servers. No, I don't care, because I wouldn't recommend that version necessarily. If you join the Retro Engine modding server, which you can find on the homepage of the Sonic Mania Game Banana here, and just go accept a notice. If you go to Kiara's thread in the Retro Engine modding server, and to the pinned here, you can find a release which is quite a lot newer, I think, like 9-ish months maybe. When was SHC? How old am I? This is saying October last year, so nearly like 9-10 months newer. This one is slightly easier to install than the one on SHC, because if it's done now, oh yeah, I cancelled it. For that, you'd have to rename the game DLL that it provides, and then replace the one that you have in vanilla. So let me just show you what that is. Here, you'd have to delete this and replace it with a new one, and then also have the mod enabled. But another feature that got added to the engine is that you can include replacement DLLs in a mod and load them just through the mod. And I will... Is that gone? No. Okay, well, I'll open when that's completed, I guess, and show you how to add it. And then another one that should be in Addendum, maybe now, because recently they've decided to overhaul the entire, well, not overhaul, but just revamp it and remove a lot of fluff, which is fair to them. Another which I like for most classic Sonic games is Character Edits Plus. It cleans up a lot of the sprites for all of them, really, but it does conflict with Addendum, so something will have to happen when both of these release, because they're not out yet. Well, this is, but this is a newer version, I think. Well, how did it fail? Did Discord go down? Okay, that's strange. So, to install Addendum, you just plop this in your mods folder and enable it. This one has a lot more files in it than other mods because it's an overhaul of the entire game, basically. And then this addendum.dll contains all the code, which is adding Amy's moveset and Miracle and High Performs and things like that. And I'm very much looking forward to whenever that comes out, as well as this. This one is more like a normal cosmetics mod that you'd find online. Oh, I'm even in here, aren't I, somewhere? Yeah, look. Fix that one pixel game now playable. I couldn't think of a better quote. I've always said something about how it's the best like spines have looked since a time, but I couldn't think of a time, and I didn't want to embarrass or ridicule anybody, I guess. But that doesn't matter. Most cosmetics mods don't have all the code stuff, especially the stuff from before Decompilation came out. So you can just add these wherever they go. Where did it go? Oh, don't know where that is. You can add these and they're much smaller and they don't have all stuff in. They just have mods. And then that's also in most SHC mods because submission rules, I guess. So I knew that those and enable them like normal mods and whatever. So yeah, I think that's basically everything. Hopefully I never have to make one of these ever again, because this process is so easy relatively to the Visual Studio one with all the clicking across the screen everywhere, that it should be fine forever. The guide's probably going to change because I am a neat freak and I will overhaul the grammar every month because I feel like it. But the general layout and instructions should be similar. I don't really want to do another video again because it took quite a lot for me to do this one. I thought that puberty would get better over the past 2 years and my voice would sound less gravelly. Even though I'm trying to not make it sound gravelly now, it's still very, very gravelly. And now, with the benefit of hindsight, I anticipate that isn't going to change anytime soon. So I might as well just do it now while I have the confidence to do it. But I should just shut up. So, I don't know why you're still here listening to me ramble. As always, go play Box Boy. Shit's fucking peak. I will never see you again.